Gun violence prevention is a really important issue to me because I lost my younger brother to gun suicide when he was 30 years old. He was somebody that was very close to me. We grew up together. We grew up in a house with a single parent. Some of the experiences of our childhood carried over into adulthood. And as adults, both my brother and I struggled a little bit with depression and with alcohol addiction. My brother, during those years that he was really struggling with addiction and with his own depression, he purchased a gun. I think that there was this false sense of security that he got by being a gun owner. We were aware of the fact that he was carrying a gun, and it made us really nervous, and we didn't know what to do about it. There was a day when my family was together and my brother was with us, had gotten into an argument with our family, and he disappeared. We went looking for him that night and couldn't find him. He was missing for 3 days. When we contacted the police to sort of help us in the search for him, they had gone into his house and looked through his things, and they realized that there was an empty gun holder. And they let us know at that point that your brother is probably carrying a gun on him. About a day later, we found that he had taken his life. And it was the worst day of my life. After I lost my brother to gun suicide, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to cope. I didn't know how to heal. I was searching for a lot of answers that I couldn't find. I joined support groups. I reached out to people who I knew had lost somebody to gun violence. I felt really uncertain about how I could deal with the grief and loss associated with just not having my brother in my life. When I was able to find a community of people who were working on solutions to gun violence, it started my healing journey. I had the opportunity to speak about my experience with my brother, and through that, I built friendships, I built relationships with people that were making a difference. And the more involved that I got, the more I was able to heal from my own loss. The more I share my brother's story, the more I talk about it, the more I meet people who have gone through similar experiences. And as much as I love the community that I've built, I think it's really important that we get ahead of this and we start to prevent some of these tragedies from occurring. Gun violence prevention is a public health issue. And the reason for that is you just look at the number of people that are dying every day because of guns. And I also think the conversation, the national dialogue tends to be about, rights and safety and whether folks should own a gun or not. And what we aren't talking about is why people are picking up a gun, why they're feeling unsafe, where they need help. How we can start to look at these issues before they become a problem, before individuals and communities are at risk. And so what I've seen in my work is that when we talk about gun violence as a public health issue, more people are willing to be a part of the conversation and be a part of the solution. When we think about gun violence in our culture and our country, a lot of times we think about mass shootings. And what's actually happening is that a lot of people who are struggling with mental health issues, with economic issues, they're turning to a gun and they're taking their life. Self-inflicted gun deaths are one of the biggest issues in this movement. I think about my brother every day. I ask myself the question of how I had the opportunity to be here and he didn't. I think that Luke deserved the same chance to get better that I've had. And I think if he didn't have access to that gun, if he didn't see that gun as his outlet, he would have found something that was much healthier for him. I think he would have had the chance to move past this difficult moment in his life the way that I've moved past this difficult moment. We don't measure the impact of gun violence on people who didn't lose their life. And there is a profound impact on people's lives. Whether you're just a loved one or you're a friend or you've witnessed gun violence, you don't get your loved ones back. It's a hole that exists and you have to work with for the rest of your life, and it's incredibly hard to deal with on a daily basis. And I don't want anyone else to have to experience what I experienced, and I miss my brother so much every single day. What brings me a lot of hope are the people that care deeply about creating change and will not stop. And because of my involvement in my volunteer work, I get to meet these people every day. And there are folks that were in the schools where a mass shooter walked in. There are people who lost a husband or a child to gun violence, and they show up every single time at these events, at the community rallies, doing the canvassing, trying to create change. I consider myself one of those people, and I don't think I will ever give up, even though we don't know when we can make that change and we don't know what it's going to take. At some point, we will move the needle. And there's a whole army of individuals that are just like me and refuse to just give in and put our passion aside because we want to see change happen.